just a moment to welcome candidates and the audience to this Naacp School Board Forum. We certainly appreciate your presence and your participation. Questions gathered by the Naacp will be asked. Cards are available for questions from the audience. If you have a question that you want me to read, make sure you get a card, and I will receive it up here, and I will ask the question. With that being said, first one I'll read it again. Each candidate will give an opening statement not to exceed 3 minutes. Since I have that privilege,
Good evening, I'm Alita Graham, and I'm a candidate for Decatur School Board. Thank you so much to the NAACP for hosting this forum, and thank you for being here this evening. I've spent my life and career in education. I retired a couple of years ago. I spent 27 years in the classroom, 8 years as president of the Decatur Education Association, and then I spent 2 years traveling around the state of Illinois, doing training and consulting with school districts and schools and unions. And then the last couple years, I've been doing some volunteer work at the Old Kings Orchard Community Center. All of those experiences, I think, have really brought me to a point of trying to find a way to give back some of those things that I've learned over the years. And so I am at a point where I would really love to be able to bring that contribution to the Decatur Public School Board, and I would just be happy to serve.
First question. Given all things are equal, would you give consideration to minority teachers when there is a reduction in force? Please do not mention the word qualified, since it is a given.
Having had the opportunity to negotiate many contracts over the year, the reality is reduction in force is driven by state statute. And so there isn't a whole lot, and state statute, from my recollection, doesn't allow us to protect any group of teachers from reduction in force. So the real answer is, as some of my other colleagues here have mentioned, the real answer is recruitment. And there were days that back in years, and I don't know if that practice has continued, but the Director of Human Resources would take several teachers and go out and actively recruit outside of our state and from other communities to try to bring minority teachers here to Decatur. Now, this is not just a school district issue, because a lot of the reason we have been unsuccessful at bringing minority teachers is because Decatur is not an attractive community for young minority professionals. And I think the other dynamic that's happened over the years is that young minority professionals are not choosing education as a career path. And so I absolutely agree we need to bring back Grow Your Own. It was successful. I know several teachers in Decatur Public Schools that were products of that, and we need to focus on recruitment and then retention.
Next question. Budget cuts will have to be made. What would you be willing to cut, and what do you think should not be cut?
These are difficult times. It's a difficult time to be running for the school board when we're facing these kinds of financial challenges. And certainly I lived through this in 2000, 2001, when I think we cut $11 million out of the budget, and it was a very, very difficult process. The bottom line is, and I've said, and you're hearing it here as well, the classroom has to be sacred. We have to look as far away from the learning environment as possible. I understand that Decatur Public Schools, the school district has been very aggressive around bringing grants into the district to pay for different programs, different services, and those are all good things. But we need to revisit those grants, and in my opinion, we shouldn't bring a grant in that doesn't fund people to work with children. That's our business. Our business is not to fund lots and lots of positions to watch learning take place, but we need positions that participate in the learning process. The children need to have that available to them. And so I know it's a difficult process. I've lived through it before, but we have to protect the learning environment.
How do you plan to address the needs of parents and children when there are problems? And are you, or will you be approachable?
Let's start with the last part first. I am most definitely approachable. I'm a night owl, and so I take phone calls way into the wee hours of the morning. I'm also big with email and texting, and I don't, the term I have an open door policy seems to imply that you need to come to me. Well, I have a go-to-you policy. I will commit to being out in the community. I will come and listen, whether you invite me or not. I will come and listen to parents. I think our parents are so very important, and we need to look at different ways to connect to parents. Our old ways of parent conferences and those types of opportunities for solving problems are not the way of our current generation. And I think with those students too, we have to find some different ways for them to problem solve. I think we really underestimate the ability of our students to do their own problem solving. We need to give them the tools, and we need to give the parents a network of support so that they can be strong parents with their children, and so that the children can make the best decisions possible. What I think I can bring to the school board is a chance to get real. And I think we need to have real talk. And we started to have some of that tonight, and I really appreciate that. We need real talk about what's going on in our public schools. We need real talk about race in this community. We need real talk about our achievement gap and our test scores. We need real talk about economic development in this community, real talk about poverty, real talk about how we can improve, not just as a school district, but as a community. Because a lot of those ills are community ills that come into our schools, and it just becomes a vicious circle. I am a person that doesn't shy away from that real talk, and I would really look forward to having that. Would love to have your support on April 9th for school board. And thank you again to NAACP. This was a great forum.
My name is TJ Jackson, and I'm running for the school board. And I'm a native and a son of Decatur. Taught in the school system and coached in the school system. And also, my wife is from Decatur Public School System. One bad thing, she just went to Eisenhower. The reason that I really want to be on this board is because I'm a product of this school system. I know some of the things that are confronting some of the young men in the school system, and I believe I have some ways and means to offset some of the negative. So I'm looking for your vote to work together and get this thing solved, because I really believe that we can write our own future, and I believe that nothing is too hard for people who will take the positive, forget about the negative, and get the job done.
First question. Given all things are equal, would you give consideration to minority teachers when there is a reduction in force? Please do not mention the word qualified, since it is a given.
Yes, considering all things equal. Considering all things equal. Considering all things equal. You know, we've come a long way in Decatur to make things equal. I can remember when Reverend Dr. Coates and I traveled all the way to Chicago to talk to HEW to get them to intervene in a situation in Decatur for hiring educators. I was there. Considering all things equal, this is an opportunity that we can correct past mistakes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what we need to really understand is that the bottom line is the children. And the bottom line, those children need to be effective children. Those teachers need to be effective teachers. Because effective students and teachers will give you effective learners. The material that we present to them, we have to have, and can I use the word quality? We have to have people who have the concern of that child at stake, not only in the present, but in the future. But to answer your question, if we can offset a past wrong, we ought to be about it. Thank you.
Next question. Budget cuts will have to be made. What would you be willing to cut, and what do you think should not be cut?
Well, you know that when you have to cut, it's a negative thing. And not everyone is going to be happy with what you cut. But you know, we have to protect the classroom and the teachers. The quality has to remain as long as we can. And that has to be the last thing we look at. But what I really want us to focus on is that knowing that the cut is asked $8 million, and the present board has done a great job, 7.3, but it's still not $8 million. We need to look for alternative methods of supplying our school system with money. Then we can take a look at some of those cuts that maybe we can hold on to, things that we think really need to go. We might be able to hold on to, but what I'm saying is the resources of the community and the involvement of businesses, this can help us also. They're a part of our educational system, and we need to get them involved.
How do you plan to address the needs of parents and children when there are problems? And will you be approachable?
You know, when we look at discipline, I don't have a real problem with it because I was raised by parents who demanded discipline. And I believe that the approach in which an educator uses to see that student where they are, every student's different. And I can guarantee you, every student is different. And if you're going to facilitate a relationship with that person, if you're going to try to understand them, then you're going to have to, for a use of another word, you have to stand under them. You have to kind of view things as to where they are and their perspective. Some students make the change early. Some students, you have to go a second step with them. But yet and still, if you really have the concern of that student in your heart, they'll understand that you mean them good. And so therefore, they're willing to make a change that you just don't get out of a book. So what I'm saying is basically that if you're dealing with human beings, then you need to act. I would like for you to vote for me for the school board because I realize that I'm only one part of the equation. Superintendent, administrators, teachers, everyone in the education community, we're just one part of that equation. I want to be a part of bringing us all together and coming out with the best product that we can bring from this school district and our students. So I would appreciate your vote, and I thank you already.
I'm Fred Spanis. My reasons for running for the school board are both personal and professional. Personally, I have 3 children and 2 stepchildren that have graduated from the public schools, from MacArthur and Eisenhower. They've benefited from the education they received in Decatur. All have gone on to advanced education and good professional lives. I have a grandchild in the public schools now, another one on the way. I want them to have those same opportunities. I've been in Decatur 42 years. I hope that I've demonstrated a commitment to this community in the things that I've chosen to do with my life. I've been involved in things like helping start CHIC years ago and bringing legal services and working with neighborhood organizations, advocating successfully for the abolition of the death penalty in the state of Illinois, working for criminal justice reform. So I hope that I've lived my life in this community in a way that demonstrates my commitment not only to education, but to the community as a whole. Professionally, I'm an independent consultant. I work with not-for-profit and government institutions around the state of Illinois and in Missouri and elsewhere. I've had the opportunity to conduct 3 studies of Decatur public schools, one dealing with finance, one dealing with preschool preparation, and one dealing with attendance and truancy issues. So I have some knowledge of some of the issues and challenges facing our school district, and I hope to bring that to bear. I have reported to a board, I've served on boards. I think I understand what the dynamics of a board-staff relationship need to be, that the board needs to set directions, set goals, and set policies. And I think I can carry that out, and I'd like your vote. I'm Fred Spanis.
Given all things are equal, would you give consideration to minority teachers when there is a reduction in force? Please do not mention the word qualified, since it is a given.
It's obviously very important to have minority teachers in the building. One of the largest predictors of how discipline is meted out between Caucasian kids and minority kids is the percentage of minority staff within a school building. They are more likely to be when you have a percentage of minority staff in a building that approximates that of the student body, you're much more likely to have discipline meted out more fairly. The fact is that across the country, African American kids are 3.5 times more likely to be suspended or expelled than white kids, even after you adjust for poverty and other demographic factors. Which means, yes, there is discrimination in schools across the country. And having minority teachers is not just a matter of having better teachers, because you will have better teachers, but it's a matter of having school discipline meted out more fairly.
Next question. Budget cuts will have to be made. What would you be willing to cut, and what do you think should not be cut?
Cutting is never fun. It's never easy. I've been involved in situations before where you have to make budget cuts. Mr. Winters is absolutely correct. Nobody wants their own part cut. Anybody who stands up here and says that we can make $7 or $8 billion of cuts without hurting the educational enterprise is just blowing smoke. That much money is going to hurt the educational enterprise. I think everybody understands it. I think teachers understand that. I think teachers' aides understand that. I think administrators understand that. I don't know that the community yet understands that. You want to protect education, because that's the business of the Board of Education, as much as you can. Yes, you do start with any positions in the administration that you can afford to cut, or support positions that you can afford to cut. But the truth of the matter is that this level of cut is going to hurt everywhere. The important thing, I guess, is to be as fair as you can, to spread those cuts as wide as you can, but to understand that there is going to be pain. I've got to tell you the truth, there's going to be pain.
How do you plan to address the needs of parents and children when there are problems? And will you be approachable?
One of the ways that the school district really can do things better and smarter is by linking with the community groups that are already out there. I would use Caring Black Men as an example of something that could be done with other agencies. They're linked with the schools, they're involved, and they work within the schools, and the schools reach out to them. We have many, many other agencies. I know when you were at the Boys and Girls Club, you'd say, I wish I knew when a kid was suspended or expelled or in trouble, because I could deal with that kid the day after school if I found out about that. There's a lot of agencies like that, a lot of organizations like that who need to be pulled in. The community has a juvenile justice council that has been at the forefront of dealing with behavioral and criminal justice issues with youth using restorative justice. The school district does not play a major role in that. They send very low-ranking people to those meetings. And you have the sheriff, you have the chief of police, you have the judge, the state's attorney, the head of probation, then you have somebody way down the totem pole from the school district. The school district needs to use its resources more efficiently by relying on community groups. If I've done my job tonight, I hope you've heard the theme behind everything that I've said. Every child is valuable. Every child is valuable. I think you're fortunate, in Decatur, to be blessed with a lot of good candidates for the Board of Education. I've been saying my own version of the Serenity Prayer all day. It kind of goes like this: Lord, grant me the ears to listen to my opponents tonight. Grant me the mind to appreciate their good ideas, and grant me the heart to give them credit for them. And I've learned much from all of you tonight, and I thank you for that. I also hope that you've heard that there are distinctions. We don't all see the world the same way. We don't all see the school system the same way. And I hope that I've been able to portray honestly who I am and what I will do if I'm elected to your Board of Education. If I haven't, and I hope that I have, SpanishForSchoolBoard.net has all my positions. You can ask me questions that nobody asked tonight, and I'll respond to you through the website. I'm Fred Spanish, and I appreciate your vote.
Hello, my name is Billy Roberts, lifelong resident of Decatur, Illinois. Graduated from Eisenhower in '94. I am not a teacher. I'm running as a concerned parent. I have 4 kids. 3 of them are in the Decatur public school system right now. One's getting ready to in about a year and a half, so I'll have all 4 of my kids in the Decatur public school. I do believe in the school system. I think with the new board coming on, we can fix the things that need to be fixed and get this district back on track where it needs to be back on track. So I am Billy Roberts.
First question. Given all things are equal, would you give consideration to minority teachers when there is a reduction in force? Please do not mention the word qualified, since it is a given.
Short answer, yes. I think we need to protect all the issues, like quality we're not supposed to use, but yes, we have to protect them. If not, we're going to lose some of the greatest teachers we have. Not many of them, but we do have to protect the ones that need to be protected most. Again, my answer is going to be short and brief, but the strong answer would be yes, we need to protect them.
Next question. Budget cuts will have to be made. What would you be willing to cut, and what do you think should not be cut?
We got to start from the top bottom and go down. We cannot cut teachers. That's got to be the last resort possible. We got to leave the teachers in the classroom so we get the education that the students need. There are, again, we cut $8 million or almost $8 million out of budget. It's not easy, and yeah, a lot of them are teachers, but I believe we have to start from the top and work our way down. We cannot cut teachers. Keep repeating myself, but that's the important part. There are other cuts we can make, but to save the classrooms, teachers are not one of those that we can cut.
How do you plan to address the needs of parents and children when there are problems? And will you be approachable?
Simple. So a couple step process. First, we hold the parents accountable. We don't just basically hold them accountable, but we help them through our community agencies, Salvation Army, Northeast Community Fund, many others. We help them with the needs they need at the home front. But in reality, the parents has got to be held accountable for the kids not going in school, if they're acting up in class or something like that. The parents need to be notified or whatever the case may be. But however, we can't just basically lock them up and throw the key away. We have to provide them the help they need. And that's being more open, board members being more open, being friendly, being more reachable, I guess you could say, through email, phone calls, whatever the case may be, but more transparency, I guess you could say. But we definitely got to provide more services to those parents that might not have those, that might need them, but doesn't know how to get the help they need. One thing I've always said is Decatur is the greatest city. We have inside the city, the school district, which in my opinion is the greatest school district. Has problems, but with the greatest city, the people inside it, we can overcome those problems, and we will. Being a product of the Decatur School District myself, I want what's best for my children that's in it also. And with that is why I'm running. And with what I can bring to the table, I believe we can make this district the best district there is.
I'm D.A. Butts, also a native of Decatur. Went to a school eons ago, if anybody even remembers, Roach Elementary School, Johns Hill, and a proud 1962 graduate of Eisenhower High School. We were the first four-year graduating class. Came back to teach at Thomas Jefferson for 18 years. I taught the hearing impaired. Loved every minute of it, as well as English and physical education. Then I went on to be principal at Washington Elementary School, which was the highlight of my educational career. Spent 5 years there, and then went to the Kyle building, where I was the director of schools for instruction. All of the first and second year teachers were under my tutelage. Enjoyed that portion of my job very much. And then we changed that position to director of special programs. So I was in charge of all librarians, all the preschool programs and so forth. That too was a highlight of my career. This is my 47th year in education. I served as 20 years as an educational consultant and have done workshops from Washington, D.C., pretty much all across the nation. What I hope to bring to this administration and to the school board would be new ideas, experience, and ways to work with the other board members to make DPS 61 the quality organization that it once indeed was. In the past, you had to have a master's degree to teach here. And if you said you were from Decatur and you were involved in Decatur Public Schools, you were heralded as the special downstate city. So it's my privilege to want to serve. Hope to have your vote in order to do that. Thank you from the hometown board.
First question. things are equal, would you give consideration to minority teachers when there is a reduction in force? Please do not mention the word qualified, since it is a given.
I think for myself, the one-word answer is definitely yes. With the inordinate numbers, small numbers of minority staff that we have to indeed make sure that we hang on to the quality people that we do have. That's mentioning the word quality in a good way. All right. Next, though, I think I would prepare for it. I'm telling you now, my platform is to hire locally. I want to see our minority students coming out of our high schools in what is perhaps indeed a program, not my own, but I'll give credit to Charlie Camp from years gone by. I want it revised. Grow your own. We need to be going into our high schools now, finding the quality minority students, nurturing them, guiding them into college, making sure that they have mentors now from the NAACP. We've got those former teachers to do that. Send them on to college. When they come out of college with this program, they're guaranteed a job back in their hometown. Nobody knows our community better than our own people. I want people hired from Decatur. I'm sorry, I don't preach a minute. I don't want people out in here from East St. Louis, Dodge City, or anywhere else. I want our own people given first priorities. And I want our kids held, I want our teachers held, and I want to make sure we hire locally first. All jobs here in Decatur Public Schools would be from our community. Nobody knows our people better.
Next question. Budget cuts will have to be made. What would you be willing to cut, and what do you think should not be cut?
Budgets are hard and cold and filled with facts until they're personified when you put a name to them. And those names come forth in the forms of staff members. Staff should be protected, programs should go. In addition, we need to look at the number of administrators. When I was at the Cow Building for 12 to 14,000 students, we had 8 at the Cow Building. Now, supposedly, there are 14, from what I hear, for 8,500 students. We also need to look at duplication of efforts. We have a marketing firm in the district, but we also have a community engagement person. To me, those services duplicate. Money and funds could be saved from that aspect also of what it appears to be an overabundance of administrators in the district at this point in time. As I said, until you put a face with something, it's very easy to hate until hate has a face. And it's very easy to say that a budget you're just going to release people, human beings, until it has a face. Those people have families, they have bills to pay, and to me, we protect the classroom, as you said, Alita. And I don't think the district should ever write a grant that doesn't bring money into the district for teachers to work with students. It should go directly into the classroom, not to bring in erroneous administrators that cannot, by the grant terms, work with students. Thank you.
How do you plan to address the needs of parents and children when there are problems? And will you be approachable?
Well, if I understood this question correctly, there's been about 4 different answers thus far. Approachable. Approachable, definitely. I don't think any one of us should or would be running for the Board of Education if we were not approachable. What I would like to do if parents did indeed call would be to listen, to try to help them interpret what the situation is, to give them some ideas and suggestions for approaching school personnel, because as a board member, it would be my responsibility to tip off the superintendent, let them know that there's a concern in this building, so that they can in turn talk to the building level principal that there is a concern, and know that they're going to be getting a call from a concerned parent. But my job as a board member to me would be to guide that parent and give them some better thoughts and better approaches rather than just charging in and spitting this out that this is the problem. Because there are very many ways that one can go into a school and be well received. And that's actually what we want. We want everybody talking. I also believe that when a student is suspended, we need and should have a reentry conference with the principal, the teacher, the parent, and the student before students ever allowed back in that school so that it doesn't happen again. And in that reentry conference, we would talk about what happened, why did it happen, and how can we ever prevent it? Because when then I go back to my teacher, I've already had a positive reaction with them. Instead of just walking in coldly and bam, I'm back from suspension, bingo. Well, first I would like to thank the NAACP for providing the forum this evening, especially in the format that they've done it. As per usual, class of dignity, I would expect no less, so I thank you very much. In regards to personally why am I running for this board, there are a lot of reasons and a lot of speculation, but there's one reason and one reason only, and that is to bring 47 years of experience to this table, to work with 6 other people, to provide the best possible educational program for all students in Decatur, and in turn, attempt to turn around what is a perceived perception about Decatur Public Schools and our community. And that's the one and only reason I'm running.
Good evening, my name is Tony Wilkins, 21-year employee of Ameren, formerly IP. I've been in this community for over 30 years. I'm a graduate of Millikan University. And the reason I'm running for school board is not because of anything that I believe is wrong with the school district. The reason I'm running for school board is because I see an opportunity. I see an opportunity for our community. One of the things about Decatur that I've always noticed is, in the past 10 years, is that we're losing population. Not only are we losing population, we're losing students. We're losing students to private schools. We're losing residents to surrounding communities, and they continue to grow, and they continue to build schools. And the reason for that is because businesses don't want to locate in Decatur because there's a negative perception that we have poor schools. There's a negative perception that we have a high crime rate. Those are all perceptions. A lot of them, these perceptions are not based on reality. And I'd like to be a part of changing the perception about our schools, because I had 2 students of my own that were children of my own that graduated from Decatur Public Schools, and Decatur Public Schools did an excellent job for them. And my son was able to go to the University of Illinois based on not only his academic achievement, but his athletic achievement in Decatur Public Schools. And he was very prepared for his college experience because of Decatur Public Schools. Not only was he very prepared, he graduated in 3 years from the University of Illinois because of his background in Decatur Public Schools. So that, again, negative perception affects some people's reality. Now, I also know that there's a reality in Decatur Public Schools. The reality is that 1 in 3 kids are not reading up to grade level. 1 in 3 kids is not up to the proper math level. 1 in 3 kids is not up to the proper science level. 1 in 3 kids is not graduating on time. That has to change. And I believe because of the kind of community we live in, the quality of this community, we can do better. Not only can we do better, we must do better, and we will do better. But we can only do that if we have people in place that are willing to put the time and effort in. Because there's no money involved for me or anybody on being on the school board. There's only opportunity. And there's plenty of challenges we face, but we can do that when we get dedicated people on the school board. And I hope I'm one of them. Thank you.
Given all things are equal, would you give consideration to minority teachers when there is a reduction in force? Please do not mention the word qualified, since it is a given.
I'd like to give consideration to minority teachers when there's an increase in workforce, when there's hiring going on. Because when there's a reduction in workforce, that means that people are losing jobs. That means that the contract comes into play. But when you're hiring is when you need to look at the diversity of your employee staff. And our staff in Decatur Public Schools is not reflective of the student population. The student population in Decatur Public Schools right now is close to 50% African American. And only about less than 10% of the teaching staff is African American. Now, that's because when you're first hired, you're going to be first fired. And when you don't have minorities that have been included in the population and don't have tenure, it's sort of hard to keep them on staff when there's a reduction. So I'd like to see more hired when we're hiring versus when we're terminating, which is very, very odd.
Next question. Budget cuts will have to be made. What would you be willing to cut, and what do you think should not be cut?
When you talk about schools, schools are built around children. And children are at school for one reason and one reason only, and that's to get an education. So when you look at making cuts at schools, one of the things that you have to hold sacred are the teachers in the classroom. That's just a must. Now, when you're talking about $8 million in cuts, and you think, well, that should be pretty easy to find. Well, $8 million is not easy to find for anybody. And at some point, somebody's going to get cut. There are going to be people that have to be lost because of no fault of the school district, but because of the state. And so when you look at cutting, I always believe that you have to protect education. You have to protect the classroom. Because when we look at the results in Decatur, they won't get any better if you reduce teaching staff, if you reduce instructors. If you do that, our results will continue to go down, and our community will continue to go down, and our population will continue to go down, and we can't have that in Decatur.
How do you plan to address the needs of parents and children when there are problems? And will you be approachable?
Most teachers are doing the best job that they can do. And in order to improve academic achievement, you have to get the parents involved. Whether that be the parent, the grandparent, the aunt, the uncle, who's ever responsible for that child, has to be involved in their education. Because 68% of the students in Decatur public schools are low-income students. They come from families that are probably single-parent homes. They come from families where the parents probably don't have a high school diploma and certainly not a college degree. And so to get those parents involved in supporting that child and ensuring that child gets to school on time, ensuring that child is doing his homework, ensuring and supporting that child and making sure that they're following instructions, building the framework for that child to be successful at school. That's what parents' jobs are. That's what those that are guardians of kids, that's their job, is to do that and to ensure that their child is successful and have a better opportunities for success than what the parent did. And that, I want better for my kid than what I had. And I'm sure most parents do, but they have a responsibility to be involved in their school, in their education, in order to make that happen. Decatur deserves the best. People in Decatur have always pulled together to do better, regardless if it's through the United Way, the Education Coalition, the 1% sales tax team. We've pulled together to do what's right and what's good and what's best for this community. And when we look at the situation of education today, with $8 million being pulled from our school district, we have to do better with less. And in order to do that, we have to change the mindset of not only our community, but also our school board, our staff. We have to change. And in order to do that, you have to have people that are committed to change. As being a person that has worked in corporate America my entire career, I understand the need to change. When the market changes, corporations have to change. When your revenue changes, corporations have to change. School districts are no different. When our results continue to go down, we have to change. When our results are doing good, we can still do better. And if I look at the history of Decatur School District over the past 6 years, we're doing better, but we can still do more. And that's what I want to bring to the school district if I am elected to the school board, is to do better. Not just for me, not just for my kids, but for all of our community and all of our kids. I want the best for our community. I want the best for our kids.
I'm Dan Winter. I'm currently on the school board. I'm the only incumbent running. I've been involved in teaching on various levels in the school district for 35 years. And during that 35-year time, I taught adult ed, I taught at-risk children, particularly in the Pregnant Girls Program. And I taught at MacArthur High School for my career. I taught freshmen all those years, and I'm still okay. That's a tough group to deal with. But I had a great career, and I worked with great people, and there's great people in the district. What I hope to do is to continue on in the district to keep those directions, those positive directions that we've already developed, and keep them moving forward. But as a taxpayer, you remember we've remodeled our high schools without a raise in our property taxes. The community stood behind us. They supported us. The amount of money that comes to Decatur Public Schools from our businesses, our industries, and our citizens is incredible. Decatur is a very generous community. But they're generous because they believe in the public schools. They want us to move forward. We are moving forward, and we're going to keep moving forward. And as long as we can keep up that community support, then we will move forward.
Given all things are equal, would you give consideration to minority teachers when there is a reduction in force? Please do not mention the word qualified, since it is a given.
Short answer is yes. For the points that the previous two speakers brought up, we're limited. But hiring the staff is an important element in our business, in that screening of potential teachers. We need to use all the tools, and we've been using tools, Haberman screening tool, to hire teachers that are qualified to deal with diverse populations. It's a relatively new tool in our arsenal in hiring, and that's an important element. Once again, I think when you say all things are equal, that is a qualifier that puts us and puts all candidates and all board members, current and future, behind the eight ball. Evaluation is important, and evaluation of those that we're going to hire, evaluation of those that we're going to retain, evaluation of those that we're going to push forward. Nationwide, the pool of minority educators is relatively small, and we need to support, as a community and as a nation, making our school teaching population look like our population.
Next question. Budget cuts will have to be made. What would you be willing to cut, and what do you think should not be cut?
Well, we start out, my philosophy has been from the very beginning that the center of the school district is the classroom teacher. We want to keep as many of our classroom teachers in the game, and by doing that, we keep our class sizes smaller. That's something we work very hard to do, is to keep our class sizes manageable. If we keep our frontline teachers in the classroom, we'll do that. There's been a lot made about cutting at various levels in the district. And we want to put the elephant right out front in the room. We're talking about cutting administration. And that's a topic that's probably going to be spoken about by the rest of the people on the dais. And I would say that there are constituencies, there's lots of constituencies in the district. Every one of them wants to see another constituency cut. It is a collective decision by the Board of Education. There's 7 of us. There's 7 of us that make those decisions. And in making that decision, we have to consider the 7 elected board members, what they feel is the best use of our money. As I talked to Mr. Roberts before we got up here, it's the allocation of scarce resources. And we think about that every minute.
How do you plan to address the needs of parents and children when there are problems? And will you be approachable?
Our relationship with our families is most important. And we wish it wasn't like it is now. We wish that we could go back to the good old days. They're gone forever. So what does the school district do? Well, first of all, transparency. You have to be transparent with your families. And if you take a look at what we did with the high school renovation and all of the meetings and opportunities that people had to come and express what they wanted for their community. And I'll tell you right now, as an example, I was a one high school guy. Okay? You know what the community told us? No. 2 high schools. We listened, but we gave people the opportunity to talk to us, and a lot of people talked to me about that. One of the proudest things I think that I've been associated with in the district as far as outreach is the One Voice luncheons. We meet with pastors. We have 220 churches in this city. We've got 22 schools. Do the math. We've reached out, and the pastors in this town have reached back. This is not religious education. This is us stepping out to those community members, those influential community members, to help us. And that's been a very successful operation. Well, I think I've served the community well. I came to the board knowing that I still had something to give to public schools. I'm a public school guy. I believe in the public schools. The children come to our door, and the door is opened. And we take them in. And we do our best to educate those kids, to bring them along, to teach them how to learn, along with what to learn. We give those kids the skills that make them good citizens. And we have the vast, vast, vast majority of our kids that come out of our buildings are good citizens. We need to celebrate that. And we need to keep pushing that forward. And we know that we're all on this day have a difference of opinion on how to get that done and where to go. We've heard wonderful comments by all. But we know what our business is. And I think I've got the temperament, I have the passion, I have the background, I have the knowledge to continue on the board and serve the community. I like Decatur Public Schools. I had a great career when I started in 1967, and I still feel like I'm having a great career by still participating in keeping our schools moving forward. And I'd appreciate your vote.